Topps have made another monumental mistake, and this one is incredibly embarrassing given the way things have gone down. I want to break it for you all today because it does, in fact, relate to the first cards from Topps Series 1 Baseball. There might be a fraud element here too down the line to keep an eye out for, so I want to talk to that today as well. But we'll kick things off by basically talking about what these, Topps first cards were meant to be. Now, Topps Series 1 is a set that people chase to get, cards from players, right? Rookie cards or debut cards of certain players. Now, what Topps sort of did this year was they announced this first card thing that you can sort of see on screen, where it's a stamp that went on a card, the base card of that player, and it was meant to represent literally the first card for that player ever printed, right? A bit of a gimmick around a 1-of-1, but it's meant to represent the first card ever printed. And they sort of made a big deal about this, as you can sort of see over here. For the first time, each player's first base card printed in 2024 Series 1 will feature a stamped parallel. Yes, it is a gimmick, but it is kind of cool because now the person that gets this can say, I've got the first one ever printed, right? A bit of a gimmick, but it is what it is. Now, Topps, sort of advertised this to death, and they used a lot of content creators to say that this was coming and how it was so amazing. Michael Rubin himself even talked about it, and they made such a huge deal about it. Now, what sort of transpired in days since the release was that these cards, weren't showing up. People thought maybe the breakers were stealing them. We really haven't seen any surface yet. Now, Neo Cards and Comics did a video 24 hours ago, Australian time, talking about the fact that these things still hadn't showed up. I wake up this morning, Australian time, to see a response that says this from Topps, where they basically forgot to stamp the cards, right? They did them. There's a 1-of-1 printed on the back corner, but they forgot to stamp the cards. And this is incredibly hilarious to me because, they advertise this so heavily, yet fucked up like this, right? They forgot to stamp the card. That is just so idiotic. And from my perspective to them as a business, when you look at it through the lens of all the other mistakes they've made, right? They've made so many mistakes over the last, year or so with duplicate cards, triplicate cards, backdoored cards, cards not ending up in the product and they're still keeping them on the checklist, all that kind of stuff, right? That stuff is, so horrible. Yet now you got 12 months later, essentially, they're making another terrible mistake like this. And some people will say, well, it's just a stamp. It still says 1-on-1 on the back. The thing is, right, you've made such a big deal about it as a business. How can you sort of not have the QC in place to make sure this is done right? You're going as a business, advertising it through all your paid shillers, all your paid content creators. You've got Michael Rubin coming out and talking about it. You're sort of advertising it everywhere, talking about it at your hobby rip nights, and then you put it into your product, but you don't have the QC to make sure that it was actually done right. It's like, guys, what the F are you doing? This is just another case of, fanatics shitting the bed with their approach to things. When they first came in, we talked about being a bit excited about them disrupting the industry, but for those that were in the know about their apparel business knew that we were in for a bit of a shit show because some of the things they talked about when it came to QC and poor customer service has now trickled through. And they're sitting there right now saying, I told you so, because this is the same sort of crap you've seen in that space. And it's just hilarious to sort of see this come to light, the way that it has, because you think, guys, you're doing this thing, put your name on it. It just shows how amateur these manufacturers are once again, right? We've just had a couple of videos shitting on Panini with mistakes they've made. Topps is no better. So people that are excited to see Panini F off, you sort of don't know what you're in for, because Topps, like I said in my last two videos, have made, more mistakes than Panini over the last 12 months. So you can laugh at Panini all you want. And the reason why you don't see as many people laughing at Topps is because a lot of these guys are paid for. So again, if you're seeing content creators spruiking Topps product, ask them about this. Ask them about this mess up. Now, I opened the video by saying this, a potential fraud element within this as well. And the reason why I say so is if you look at, the response, they're basically saying, if you pull one of these cards, there's no stamp on there, obviously, send it back to us. We want to stamp it for you. And the way you'll know it's one of these cards is because it'll say 1-on-1 on the back in the lower right-hand corner, like I said. Now, like Ziggy No has said over here, give the guy a follow. He's basically saying serial number stuff can be, frauded easily. People can make fake stamps. So what measures is Topps putting in place to make sure that the stamps are genuine that people are going to send in? Who's to say that somebody's not going to make a fake stamp very quickly and send a card into Topps, and then the one that's getting the first card foil put on there is a fake one, right? It's just a shit show. Not to mention the fact that maybe some of these things were missed when breaks were ripped. Like maybe the cards were missed and thrown out because it's a base card, right? Or maybe the base card got sent to someone and they missed the stamp on the back, right? It's just a mess. It's amateur, and I don't know what Topps do here. They've sort of messed up the whole situation. They made this big deal about it. They made this huge deal about it. It was sort of everywhere. Like I said, people shilling it to death for them. Yet they couldn't even follow through and do it right. So the mindset is, right, if you're making a big deal out of something and you don't have the QC in place to make sure that it's done right for things that you're pushing that hard, what other, fuck ups are happening that you're not paying super close attention to that we're not sort of seeing right now? It's just insane to me that you can have all that effort go into it from an advertising perspective. You want to change the game, and then you can't even put the foil stamp on there. It's like, guys, what the heck is going on? And Topps own the printing facilities too, so they've really only got themselves to blame. It's just a shit show. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse when I talk about the mistakes these companies make, right? We talk all the time about how they don't have appropriate policies and they're not treating the industry with the respect it deserves, right? I said this for the last 3 years, where they're stuck in the mindset of where the hobby was 5-10 years ago. And this goes for every single business within this industry, I'd say, for the most part. I think that's holding true for maybe 99 out of 100 companies. They're sort of charging us more because they want to maximize their revenue, but they're not uplifting internally. Like, this is not a mistake that should be happening in this day and age. Like we said for Panini with the missing autos, right? Those boxes are selling for, $900 USD, $1,000 USD. These boxes, whilst more affordable, are sort of still should be treated with respect, and they're not doing it right now. They're charging you all this money, but they're not putting the effort in. You want to make a big deal out of it. You want to make the hobby elevated. Michael Rubin talks about the fact he wants the hobby to sort of be a sort of mainstream thing and go beyond just card collectors and have, it advertised during sports games and get athletes involved, like you've seen with some of these Rip Nights and all that kind of stuff. They want to try and elevate the brand and make it sort of something that people, aspire to own and take pride of ownership with, right? As opposed to just being a card collection. And yes, obviously there's pride of ownership for us as traditional card collectors, but what I mean is celebrities wanting to buy these cards to then have it in their collection to then show off, right? Similar to what you've seen, in the luxury watch space, as an example. Whilst that's obviously been around for a lot longer and it's had that buy-in for a lot longer, the way Rubin has talked about it is comparing to luxury goods. These things aren't luxury goods, especially not when you're doing this amateurish bullshit that's happening right now. You want to be a big name brand, you want to be a big company. These are not mistakes you see with big companies. It's just a shit show. And I can't emphasize enough, they've made such a big deal about the fact that these things were going to be awesome, first cards ever printed, yet they couldn't freaking check if they were stamped or not. I just think it's incredibly insane. And a reminder to everyone, Topps is just as bad as Panini. Like, we've had those duplicate cards, we've had those triplicate cards, we've had, certain short print cards not get included into the product and they don't announce it until after the product's released. You've had things from Topps where, they had certain product, I can't remember which product off the top of my head, released, and it was meant to be 36 packs per box or something along those lines. And then prior to release, they cancelled everybody's pre-order because they then changed the pack numbers and all that kind of thing. It's just, really amateurish ways in which they're moving. And it's something that should concern people, especially once they actually get full control. Because I don't think, too much is going to change given that both companies, effing up right now. But once Topps has every license and they want to sort of get integrated from a gambling perspective with Fanatics Live, and they want to integrate with sports and go to that pride of ownership thing I touched on earlier, it's probably only going to get worse. And yes, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse talking about these topics all the time, but it's just insane to me. It's just insane. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I just thought this was absolutely hilarious. This is a bonus video, obviously, for this week, but I just couldn't not talk about it because it's just a joke, and it highlights all the things I've explained. And this is not meant to say that card collecting is not fun, but these businesses, these people that are running these businesses, these people that are, out of touch with the culture of sports cards. And the one thing I want to quickly say as well, so I'm going on a rant now. Sports cards has primarily been a working class person's thing, right? Because we had these things when we were kids, wanted to keep collecting them. The boom changed that quite a lot. And now you've got these businesses almost tailoring stuff to that mindset, to the new mindset. And maybe I'm going too much off on a tangent just there, but that's how I see things sort of happening. I can only see it, getting worse. So I'm rambling now. You guys get the general gist of what I'm trying to say, as I do often say. So, share your thoughts down below. This is just beyond embarrassing, and I think we're going to see a lot more worse things to come, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So, as always, share your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.